Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with other entrepreneurs that have overcome and want to provide value to the audience. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and only their own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. So today we have my good friend, Alvionna Brewster. And so, Alvionna, if you had to describe who you are, just give us a little snippet of who you are, just brief bio.
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. I'm Alvionna Brewster. I am a registered nurse I believe we're at 17 years now. I guess I can call myself a retired registered nurse because now I'm over into the entrepreneurship complete world. But I am a family girl. I love my family. I love my friends. But more importantly, I love to inspire and impact the community. So I do a lot of things to try to help to motivate, encourage and push us forward. I love all things food, travel, sports, you name music, you name it. That's what I like to do. But I am just a down home East Texas girl, and I am just happy to be here this morning.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So we're going to talk about the execution conference that's coming up because it's going to be amazing. But what I want to first start out is with kind of where you started, because you didn't start thinking that you started thinking that you were going to be a nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that you were not going to go into the entrepreneur space. It just kind of found you. So kind of tell us what happened with that.
I think for me, so very early on, even as a child, I can remember kind of thinking outside of the box and wanting to do things differently and kind of on my own terms. But the normal progression was, graduate high school, go to school, get a good college education, and go right into the workforce. And so I did what everybody else did. But what I recognized is that when I went to different hospital systems, I would recognize that things weren't done quite like, I'm like, why are we still doing this? And nobody is challenging these policies and rules and regs and things like that. And so I found myself always wanting to try to fix or improve or make things better. And so along the way, most of us have the same kind of journey through nursing where it's like we're tired, we're stressed out, we're riveted running all the time type of thing and not really feeling heard. Throughout the time, I would say mid 2014, 15 range, I started thinking about entrepreneurship. Actually, 2012. I first started thinking about entrepreneurship in the sense of crafting used to be my thing that I would always do. I love to make things and give them away and or sell them. So that helped me to manage and deal with the stressors of being a nurse on the floor. And so when I started to do that, that was fulfilling, and it would take my mind off of everything that was going on. And then in 2015 is when I was like, okay, this sounds like a thing. So I was actually involved in nurse entrepreneurship before I even knew that there was a such term as nurse entrepreneurship. And then that led me to where I am essentially today, because I recognized that there were actually a lot of nurse entrepreneurs, but we just didn't know who they were. We didn't know what was possible. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to get us together, to be able to exchange information, motivate, empower each other, and just see what the example looked like of a nurse who runs a business, multi-million dollar business. I've seen it. Honestly, I've seen it all now. But I'm so inspired by what types of businesses our nurses are doing nowadays in order to help improve healthcare and to improve our communities, really. So it kind of led me to where I am today. How do I provide the best resources to help nurses to launch, build, and grow their entrepreneurial endeavors?
I love it. And one of the things that because when I first went into nurse entrepreneurship, I didn't really realize that there was as many nurse entrepreneurs as there are. And so, I was in this business coaching program and we were talking, and I was like, well, I'm the only one. I wonder whether this is even a thing, right? And then I come over to B&E, Black Nurse Entrepreneurs, and then I'm like, well, there's a whole bunch of folks doing that. So it's
The whole thing.
it's a whole thing. And so, I love it. And one of the things that I love about your program, or I love about B&E, period, is the fact that it is so very like the culture is a great culture. Okay. As we all know, sometimes whenever you go into business or in nursing as a general rule, what happens is you have these spaces where people are just catty, like they're not good to each other, like they're very competitive, and it's enough for all of us. And you have a special sauce that next person doesn't have. And so that whole competitiveness and dog eat dog world was not something that I found once I went over to B&E. And it literally was the ticker for me. And so I was like, and man, I just kind of sat in there and I saw like the feed. And I never ever saw anyone get upset with each other. It was all, we want to help you get to your next level. If you're at this level, then we want to help you get to that next level. And it was a game changer. And what you don't allow in that particular group, because you just started it out as a group, right? You just
Mhm.
started out thinking that this would be a whole thing. So tell me about that progression.
Yeah, so like I said, in 2015, I recognized that I was in a lot of Facebook groups at the time, and I recognized that there were actually, like you said, a lot of nurse entrepreneurs. And so I said, what would be a way that I could get us together? Because, some groups don't allow advertisements, some groups don't allow people to really talk about nurse entrepreneurship because at the time it really wasn't celebrated, super celebrated. They want you to go up the ladder in the nursing field. So it's like you want to leave nursing and have your own business. What? That's not heard of. And so what I wanted to do was just create an environment where we would be motivated to chip in and help one another. I recognize that us working together to build a strong support system, an ecosystem of sort, really helps. It's the true definition of what the village taking care of each other, or the community taking care of each other. And I'm a firm believer that the resources that we need are often found within the networks that we're in. We just have to take the time to get into the network and involve ourselves, really involve ourselves. Some of it is about sharing, some of it is about taking. But if we have this exchange of energy and resources, then we could collectively rise together. What I also recognize is that if we are fighting against each other, or there is a bunch of bitterness and backbiting and things like that, we can't survive. It just won't survive. The foundation will be very rocky. And so as I went through the process, for the first 4 to 5 years, I ran this completely free. And then I got to a crossroads of my time and my money and my energy is being split in half. So on one hand, I'm working 12 to 16 hours on the floor, and on the other hand, I'm running B&E full time. And I recognize that God is pulling me in this direction of you're going to have to make a serious decision. You're going to have to recognize and decide where you're headed with this. And the funny part is I had other businesses, I had other endeavors, and I never thought that I would completely leave nursing in the capacity that I have. But what I thought is that I would work the two businesses, like one of them full time, one of them part time, and then do nursing PRN. But quickly, one of the businesses skyrocketed, which is B&E. So with that being said, as I started to invest in myself, as I started to surround myself with business mentors, they were pouring into me. This is a business. You've helped a lot of people become millionaires while you're still struggling or still working very hard with your time and your money on the floor. So at the end of the day, don't be afraid to monetize what you've created, because when you monetize it, then you'll have more resources to be able to even pour back into us. So the B&E that you see today is because I took the opportunity to make it into a business model, which now gives us better resources and events and courses and things like that where we are now. So, yes, it started as a Facebook group, but then after about 4.5, 5 years, I did transition it over into a business model.
I love it. So I just want to say hey to Jamisha, who she said, I see my friends. So I do want to, I love how what you did was you started to serve. And this is the key to it. because a lot of people, they don't understand, like, you go into business, it's like all about the money, right? And
Mhm.
Dr. Darius Daniels, he talked about money is not the highest form of compensation, because your time is your highest form of compensation. Because if you were to die today, if you got $1 million, but the caveat was that you were to die today, then that time would be higher for you. The deal is that we have to understand that that highest form of compensation is fulfillment. And we go into nursing thinking that we're going to fulfill our goals and our dreams by making our communities healthier. And sometimes that's just not the goal of, everyone that is involved in that.
Right.
And so what we have to do is we have to kind of think outside the box. And that is one thing that I know that you have done. So I love that. Now, tell us, like, you started to do events, like you started to do the takeover event. Tell us what pushed you into doing the takeover event.
So actually, I would say around 2019 when I started with a business mentor. And we wrote out all the things that we wanted to kind of include in the business model. Events actually was a part of that conversation. And so, different little pop ups, network after five type of events, and then conferences. And the funny part about it is when I first launched B&E back in 2015, I was ready. I was like, oh my gosh, I got this group of nurses. We're going to have a conference. And the funny part about it is this is the lesson I want to say that I learned through this journey is timing and seasons. I wrote down those visions and things like that, but it took me a little bit of time to launch it. And I'm glad that I waited because if I had have launched any event back in 2015, 2016, I would not have been prepared. I wasn't prepared emotionally, mentally, financially, none of those. And so it took a maturation process in business to even get to the point where I am now. And so I want to encourage your listeners to trust the process, write down the vision and make it very plain so everybody else can run with your vision. But there's a process that has to happen as you're executing this dream. And that is something that was super important for me to understand and recognize. And so in 19, we're writing down our visions. We're trying to make those things as plain as possible. And then boom, COVID hit. And so, of course, that caused me to pivot a little bit and say, you know what, we're not going to have any events right now. But I always had that in the back of my mind. And honestly, I'm glad that I waited because once we kind of got through the COVID storm a little bit, I was stronger as a businesswoman and the business itself was stronger. And on top of that, I was starting to get around some amazing businessmen and women that were pouring back into me, that were allowing me to see what the example of a strong businesswoman and how these events are supposed to be done, right? And so, yes, Takeover October of 2021 happened last year. Leading up to Takeover 2021, I had had some small little networking events and stuff like that, but nothing quite as big as what we had last year. Learned a lot from that process, and then through that time, and I want to be very clear because this is another a business tip or gem. As you're going through things in business, because business can be very challenging, it is very important for us to embrace the learning lesson that is to be learned out of those difficulties and challenges. Learn what you got to learn and move on. Take the good, take the bad, and move on. So there are a lot of learning lessons that I had to learn, but I'm happy that they happened at the very beginning of our journey. I don't want to wait 20 years down the line and then come up with a $20 million lesson. I'd rather learn the $2,000 lesson now. So, what is the learning lesson? How do I move forward? So, after October, we took some time, thought about some things, decided what we needed and what did it look like for our event space moving forward in Black Nurse Entrepreneurs. So, that leads us to this year we've had already one conference, we've had a networking event, and we're gearing up for our next conference, which will be November 29th, the Execute Conference here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
So I love, love, love how you talked about the lessons, because a lot of times when we go into business, what we think, and people are just like, well, I give up. I had that one setback. I mean, like, how many times have you went into a patient's room and they had stuff strode all over the room? That one setback, you're like, I give up nursing, right? No, you don't, right? You learn from the lesson. Don't put that there so they can throw it across the room, okay? You learn from those lessons so that you can then move forward. And you when you said, and a lot of people, they despise small beginnings, right? Do not despise small beginnings, because that is a $2,000 lesson that, in if it was larger, it would have cost you $2 million, right? And
Mhm.
understanding that is key. Either you succeed or you learn. And that is the key to business for sure. Jamisha said it's BNE because it's a membership, right? Of course, you can come in and you can, be a part of the group. But if you want to be a part of the membership where you get a lot of mentoring, it's a phenomenal business model where nurses can grow and flourish with genuine support. And it is genuine support, ladies and gentlemen. Genuine. I've never seen anything like it. And Alvionna has cultivated this space for us. And so, if you're a Black nurse entrepreneur, then this is the space for you. So, execution. Let's talk about execution. So, we did the takeover. So, what kind of turned the tide for you? Because we did the takeover, and we were there. It was a phenomenal event. So, what made you change it to execution?
Because we get a lot of information. We are information hoarders by nature. That's just how people operate. And I think it's important for us to start implementing some of the information. And I knew that we were going to do one more event before the end of the year. And so, again, we got together as a team to decide on what that event would look like. And we need a space where not only do we learn information, but we need to have actionable steps and put in a plan so that we enter into the new year ready to go. I don't want us after January 1st to be looking around like, okay, this is quarter one. What do we do? When we enter to January 1st, will be ready. And it's important for me. I think one of the best things that I love to do is put forth what the example looks like. A lot of times people don't know what's possible until they see the example. So I was very intentional about the people that I brought as speakers to the conference because these speakers are all over seven figures. And so if the goal is to move our community of nurses, all of us collectively over into the seven-figure range, then I have to put in front of you what does seven figures look like. We need to ask them questions about whenever you had a difficult challenge in business, how did you get over that? How did you still become this amazing multi seven figure business owner and survive? How did you hire people? What did the blueprint even look like? How did you attract those clients that continue to stay that you can consistently serve? These are the important people that you got to see in front of you. And if you don't have the example, then sometimes it feels like you're charting unfamiliar territory. So I was very specific about getting people from a wide variety of nursing businesses, but they're all over seven figures. This is the example. This is where we're all headed. So I'm excited that we are bringing forth the Execute Conference because I feel someone is going to walk away from this conference a seven-figure earner. They're going to learn something, a gym, tip, tool, something that is going to propel their business over into the seven-figure mark. And I'm super excited. As I tell people, come with expectancy in your heart because God will bless you with exactly what you need for your business.
I love it. And the people who are over seven figures is key. My coach, can I say that my coach is coming? Uh,
Absolutely.
okay, so Marquel Russell, who is my coach, he is coming to speak, and he is one of the things that we talked, because we're in the seven figure retreat, and we were talking, and one of the things that he talked about was the fact he was telling this whole story about how they were having this master class and how everything literally just did not work.
Mm.
And they were like, well, what's going on? What's going on? And, he told the whole story. And one of the things that Dr. RJ, she was in there, she said, it's good to see that there's things that happen with you as well. because a lot of times what we think is it's happening. Oh my God, now we're going to quit.
Right.
No,
Right. No.
no, you don't quit. I mean, the reason, the one of the guys on one of the, of course I'm a TikTok fan, but he's on TikTok and he said super successful people are not special. They just don't stop. I
Exactly.
mean, they just keep it moving. And the problem is, and you have to stay in that environment, because if you don't stay in that environment, what's going to happen is you're going to stop, because you don't see that example every day, all the time. The people that I see all the time, the people that you see all the time, they're succeeding, they're winning, they're doing what they need to do. So now tell us, who will be at the Takeover Conference?
We have, like you said, Dr. Marquell Russell. He'll be talking about client attraction. Of course, that's his lane. We also have Ishonda Blue, wonderful nurse boss that we have in our community. She and her sister are partners, and they've been able to have multiple streams of income and also have been able to sell some of their businesses over seven figures. So we have the amazing Sue Dennis, who she and her husband are business partners. They also have a couple of businesses that have gone over the seven-figure mark, and she just was awarded the Two Comma Club Award. We also have Priscilla Jenkins that will be a part of our event. She is a phenomenal nurse boss. Priscilla does it all. She has a lot of businesses, but some of the most important ones are the ones that have been able to get government contracts, the ones that were part of the NFL. I mean, I always tell you this, that we have some amazing people in this community. One of our Black nurses, Miss Priscilla, was able to serve during the NFL Super Bowl. Her company got the contract for that. We got the best people in our community. Come on now. We got Doris DK, who is an attorney. She is going to be coming and talking about some compliance from a different standpoint. And then we also have the phenomenal Mayon Holmes, who is going to actually be leading our B&E Elite exclusive activity. And so those of you who are B&E Elite members, you will be able to partake in that activity. Listen, we are ready. We're ready to take over. We're ready to execute. We are ready, because I know, I'm a firm believer. And just like you said, listen, we have to plant our seeds in fertile soil,
So,
right? We have got to do that, right? Part of that is the investment that we make within ourselves. Part of that is changing our mindset. Understand that you are exactly where you're supposed to be for a reason, and understand that God will place the right people in your life. Some of that requires transparency, being open and honest about the journey in business. It is not easy, but many people have done it already. So many people have done it. He will send you exactly what you need in order to execute in excellence. You just have to have a level of expectancy and have a level of tenacity. I want to remind y'all, because a lot of y'all, I believe, are nurses on this podcast. I want to remind you, the first time that you failed a test or failed a course or maybe didn't even pass NCLEX, you did not give up. You continue to stay the journey to become the amazing nurse that you are today. You have to take in the same level of tenacity when it comes to business, same level of dedication, determination. It requires that same level of energy. So don't give up, and understand that there's so many people that are doing business around the world. You can learn from anybody, no matter what stage of business that you are at.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So Nancy say good morning, ladies. And Jamisha said that the takeover event was the best conference that she's ever attended. And I am a conference attender. Okay, let's be very clear. I'm all about professional and personal development. And that was one of the best conferences that I've ever attended as well. And so tell me about, and I really, so we, when it comes to the conference and how, because it's number one, the experience, okay, number two, the information that you gain from the conference. So tell me about like the level of commitment that you have to this whole thing, and how you, like, the mindset that has to go into putting all this together.
Well, like anything, it is challenging. It is challenging, but this is why I surround myself with the Word of God. I surround myself with my family, my friends, and my network, the community. I recognize that, and this is something that when I'm teaching people, this is something that I remind them. If you give up throughout the journey, there are a lot of people that are affected by your inaction. There's a lot of people that are waiting on you to execute in excellence. So I recognize that God has placed me in a very specific and strategic position in order to motivate and empower people. If I do not follow the calling and operate in what my God given talent is, there are a lot of people who will suffer. So it requires this level of dedication, tenacity, and determination for a reason, because I recognize the position God has put me in, right? And I love to serve and I love to be around our people. I love to pour back in our people. I don't have any children, but I do feel a responsibility to not only carry myself in a way, but also be the example for the next generation that's coming. I don't have any, but I know that there are small children that are watching our steps. And at the end of the day, I want them to read about me, and the one thing, a little small thing that I may have done in history, I want them to be able to read about it and say, Alvionna did that one thing that changed the trajectory of how our generations are growing, or what wealth looks like in the Black community, or what health care looks like in the United States and around the world. That one thing. So I'm just trying to do my part while serving and following what God has blessed me to do.
So I love that, because I don't think that I would be where I am today without B&E. And so that's the reason why when you said that, it really made me know, that I would not be where I am today without it. And without you providing that space for us, I cried at the drop of a dime.
Me too.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't be where I am without B&E. This is what I want to leave us with. My dad told me a couple of years ago, I wrote a book, and the book was called Transparency. And at that time, I had been through some difficult challenges in life and in nursing and all these other things. And I was very transparent and open about the process. And my dad said, we need to get this on the bestseller list. We need to go out there and hustle and sell. And I said, Daddy, I'm a full-time nurse. I'm not concerned about it being a bestseller necessarily. If it becomes one, great. If not, that's not my concern. My concern is to save one life. I want somebody to pick up this book and read it and say, oh my God, that's my story. And I said to him, I said, I wanted to save one person's life, and sometimes the life that it may save can be your own.
That's right.
You operating in your purpose sometimes comes back and blesses you in return. You see what I mean? And so I want people to understand that being obedient to what God has called us to allows us to see Him manifest within our communities, to see just how good He is, to see the testimony, right? I get to have a kind of like a little indirect impact on your generations because of the environment and the experience that you've experienced in B&E. I know without a shadow of a doubt, the young people that live in your household, your grandkids that come over, will get to enjoy a little bit of the B&E brand just because of our environment. It saved my life as well.
I love it.
It saved my life as well.
So now, how did they purchase tickets to the B&E conference?
Listen, super easy. Go to blacknurseentrepreneurs.org/execute. /execute. If you don't remember all that, just inbox me and I can give you the link. But blacknurseentrepreneurs.org/execute. And I'll drop that also in the comments later on.
Okay, cool.
If that's okay with you.
Well, yeah. I actually can drop it in the copy at the top if,
okay.
Once we just, inbox me the link. And so go, and it's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be there for sure. So I honestly can't wait to be in the room with all of those superstars. I mean, come on now. That is a whole it's gonna be a whole thing. So I can't wait. I can't wait. So we will be having a master class tonight. Okay, so go and register for the master class as well, October 12th, this tonight. I ask that you like and share this podcast. Because each little thing gets you one step closer to your goals. Each little, those 2 millimeter shifts, the small bite-sized palatable pieces, they literally get you from one space to the next space to the next space until the time when you are affecting generation after generation after generation. And that is what Alvionna has procured here. So I am loving this. And Nancy said, BNE has helped me to jumpstart my business 2 years ago. I was able to connect with mentors and now in partnership. And then she also said, this is a giving group. Don't miss the conference. So it is not just from us. It is from the people who are out in our community. And so not our, this is Alvionna's community. I just kind of, insert myself whenever I want to. Anyway, so you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.